Just a factual matter in defense of a colleague. I think you're getting Jim Conan wrong. He doesn't think that Descartes and Stroud's view is intelligible. That's all in the course of a hypothetical. He's saying, look, if your point is that what the Cartesian skeptic would like to do is an intelligible goal, and it's just that you can't have that. Well, then that's something that ought to be an answer to discovery. But and I think really the Conan-Coradin take on Wittgenstein is much more congenial to the basic thrust of your lecture this afternoon than that depiction of that remark of Conan by you lets on. I'm trying to say it's the point of the way they read Wittgenstein's tractatus to be hostile to the idea of deep unintelligibility. The options. If somebody comes out with forms of words, the options are: did that make sense, or did it not make sense? And if it didn't make sense, it just didn't make sense. That against a reading of what goes on at the end of Wittgenstein's tractatus, where he says, looking back over the work, look, all of that was nonsense. According to which, although it was nonsense, it was somehow deep, insightful, or something like that nonsense. I mean, the Diamond-Conan line is, he really means it. It was just damn nonsense. It was so far as getting close to insights and stuff like that, it was as if it was gibberish. It might as well have been gibberish. There was an illusion of sense that was concocted through there. But against death, your title, I think it fits very well the way that they're taking the way they're taking Wittgenstein, both early and late. So I think in the end, the dispute between Conant in that introduction to Putnam and you is only the one that you get to at the end of today's lecture. He thinks that it would be a better way to do the thing that you most fundamentally want to do, not to deprive yourself of unintelligible as a thing to say against the people who go on doing the things that you deplore them for doing.
Yeah, and that's really all I want to quarrel about, whether this is a useful notion. I may have gotten him wrong in that paragraph on 31. I confess I've read Diamond on the subject of the end of the Tractatus, and I don't believe it, but that I don't know how to argue that one either. And Diamond's reaction to my stuff is I always miss the deep part. So I'm not sure who.
There's sort of perverse use of deep that one can be tested into. The deep thing is that there's only the surface, and that's paradoxical, but maybe kind of okay. I mean, that's your point, you might say.
Yeah, there's a certain struggle to see, a sort of more superficial than thou struggle going on. But,
Can I ask less not a philosophical question? It's really addressed to you on behalf of Williams, since he was a spokesman for Williams. I agree that he's got an original, even brilliant response to this threat. But at a crucial point, it does turn on, as you say, for instance, on 29, pointing out that the skeptic creates this presumption by assuming that experiential knowledge is generally probable knowledge of the world, or anyway sorting our beliefs into the ones that are experiential beliefs, and then there are the ones that are referential, committed to things about the world, and so on. And Williams said, well, why should we give you that in the game? Why should we play that game? All right, if we give you that, then yes, by those rules we can't get anything, but you can't just say this is the way the world is, we come with this is an implicit commitment that we've got by talking at all, it needs some justification. Quite so. But Sellers gave us, it seems to me, a straight argument against that assumption. He gave us the conceptual tools to undercut anybody's hiving off of experiential beliefs as antecedently and independently intelligible before we worry about their bearing on the world. Why isn't that the point at which we ought to take on Stroudian skeptics? And Nagel's worries too, it seems, but it's clearer in Stroud. And say, look, that doesn't make any sense. If you look at what's required to have an experiential belief, a belief about how things seem to you or whatever in dreams, we can show you how you've got to already be able to have these beliefs that commit you to how the world is. In order for it to make sense for us to attribute the content that you're starting with for your experiential beliefs. Because why shouldn't we get off the boat sooner with a straight argument at that point, rather than giving them that and say, why play this game? Sure, this is a game. It's okay as far as we can tell, but what's your justification for playing? We say, no, it's a broken-backed game.
I think the reason is this. I envisage Stroud and Nagel reading empiricism and the philosophy of mind and saying the myth, Sellers has not shown the given to be a myth. He has begged the question against the given by assuming that looks are, as it were, given in talk, and to show that you cannot have looks talk without is talk shows nothing about the knowledge gained of how things look, quite apart from any ability to talk looks talk. They will see the argument of empiricism and philosophy of mind as begging the question against their theory of ineffable knowledge by acquaintance.
At the point of psychological nominalism.
Yeah.
So the virtue of Williams is that he doesn't need to fight over psychological nominalism.
Yeah. I think he cuts deeper, or at least comes in later in the argument, by saying, if you have this distinction between experiential knowledge and knowledge of the world, you've got it, you, the skeptic, have got it made. Tell us why you made that distinction. Sellers, it seems to me, can only say, if by knowledge of the world you mean what is communicated in looks talk, look at the parasitism of looks talk on is talk. These guys are going to say, don't tell me about the parasitism of one use of language on another piece of use of language. We are cutting beneath language. That's the whole point of our deep insight.
I mean, that seems fair enough, and we should certainly have Williams' arrow in our quiver. One point to trying to hold the line in psychological nominalism and make the point there is that that's what lines up a whole lot of views together. That is that the dreaming view is of a piece with, for instance, Parfit's talk about pseudo-memories as things that could be just the way they are, and now we've got the question of whether they go back to real memories. So John has shown in detail how this is just the myth of the given applied to those things. That qualia is, of course, another version of this. And it does seem to me we ought to, at least every time we make one of these things, say, no, look, there's one great big point that you guys are missing here. This is really where the crux comes, is whether you can make sense outside of psychological nominalism of things like this. Rhetorically, if the point is convincing, maybe Williams' strategy is a better one. If it's diagnostic and sort of teaching them how we're going to look at the world and where we think the mistake is, then it seems to me that one wants to stop earlier and kind of table this earlier argument.
Yeah, I guess my picture of the situation is that, that though empiricism and the philosophy of mind has never really been discussed in any detail in the literature, there aren't any really good critical, discussion showing why it's wrong. It is sort of hovering on the fringe of people's consciousness. And Nagel is the person, I think, who sees that either empiricism and the philosophy of mind or the philosophical investigations will sooner or later get you to the same place, and has, as it were, prepared a line of defense against both in the passages that I quoted by saying only somebody who could say something as stupid as all awareness is a linguistic affair would believe any of this stuff. And this is, this terrible decadent modern pragmatism, positivism, verificationism, stuff like that, which is, a blemish on modern culture. So I think without ever discussing the argument of empiricism and the philosophy of mind, people like Parfit, Nagel, Stroud, and so on have already arranged their defenses, and Nagel Williams is at least flanking that defense. I guess Bressa Cabras.
He's coming back in a second.
Sorry?
He said he's coming back in a second.
I think he said that Don McDowell was going to be talking at 6. Right. If there are no other questions, I guess we should just break to.
Well, as for there, can I get at one earlier point? This is standing bravely against the course of history in defense of Socrates. Sneers at him. When you talk about his unfortunate suggestion that even familiar common sense terms like just and pious need analysis and definition, that beneath the use of these terms there lurks something which, if displayed, might help us correct that use. We can play the game of dividing Socrates off from Plato. It seems what I want to say is, well, the second half of that remark is Plato. That there's something beneath the use that might help us. That may even be a story of Plato for all I know. His Plato isn't doing that. But certainly there's a Socratic practice that is unpacking our terms. That's just, it's not holding them to something outside the practice. It's rather holding them to other pieces of our practice, reminding us of the connections to other bits, which is the way within the practice we bring them and move them along, that one might think is of the essence of rationality with a small L, the kind that doesn't look at the authority of something else, but just talks about the self-correcting nature of the enterprise, the sort of thing where we find ourselves using a concept like Bosch, and we say, well, now wait a minute, if we use that, then we're inferring from being German to being barbarous. Now, is that something that we actually want to be committed to defend that? What about Goethe and so on? We say, well, maybe that's not such a good concept, and you could certainly read Socrates as saying that the concept of piety was like that when you unpacked it, you found that, gee, it fits me with all these things which are really questionable by my own lights once I look at it. At least, I'm bracketing the question of whether Plato was right in seeing his other commitment or his other lesson in Socrates, or even whether we're right in seeing Plato as seeing that in it. It surely, we surely don't want to withhold credit from Socrates for emphasizing the crucial importance of this aspect of the game of giving and asking for reasons. This is where we all came into the game and how we can do it.
Yeah, I agree. Perhaps one should say that, Socrates invented two things which are of great value. The practice of subscripting uses of terms. There's piety sub 1, where it's what the gods love, whatever, and piety sub 2, where it's what the gods damn well better love because it's actually pious. And and he also invented what came to be the legal practice of saying things like, in this contract, meter shall be interpreted as, capable of being laid next to the standard meter bar. Spelling out things like that. And I think that Nietzsche really wouldn't, criticize either of those developments. All he would criticize is the idea that beyond the search for coherence, there is, beyond the search for, the aesthetic achievement of making our beliefs coherent, there is the scientific achievement of getting our concepts right.
That may even not have been Plato, but sort of the Neoplatonists wasting on
We'll never know.
Not even that. I mean, I think this is a rare lapse of historical sense on Nietzsche's part, and then you guys take it over. I mean, it's part of your own way of thinking that there are ways of using terms like inside and outside that get to seem to make sense. I mean, you say make sense because you think you understand. I say seem to make sense because I want to keep unintelligible. But they get to seem to make sense only really quite recently, and they get to seem to make sense around the time of Descartes. I'm giving you back what I take to be your own thought. So in terms like ideas like the idea that there's a serious question: is this to do with how things are inside the language game, or does it do outside the language game? That's so much as seemingly intelligible only after, the 16th century or something like that. Seeming meanings get attachable to concepts like the concept of what lies below, practice, only around there. I think all you find in poor old Plato, I think he's an innocent party here. All you find in Plato is imagery for some thought such as that there are right and wrong ways to do this kind of thing. You can't take some word and project it away from the existing uses any old how. In some thin sense, he's wanting to say there's something that you've got to be faithful to when you take the word from the one context out of the other context. And this gets to risk seeming to express the kind of seeming meaning that you think is horrible only after Descartes. So I don't think it's fair for someone criticizing what the early moderns made of modern orientation to things, to take a self-consciousness and intention to say self-consciously this rather than that back before there was any option intellectually to people taking a stand on these matters. So I think Marx's defense of Socrates extends to a defense of Plato. Plato is not a Platonist. In the modern sense.
I guess I keep thinking of the nomos fusus distinction as, the beginning of the end, but you think that's pretty harmless. You know Plato better than I do, so you're probably right. Anybody else have a question?